Imagine waking up in medieval Europe where the streets are silent, not because peace reigns, but because something terrifying lurks around every corner. Between 1347 and 1351, an invisible enemy crossed borders, ports, and villages, spreading at a speed unimaginable for that time. This enemy was named the Black Plague, and in just 4 years it reduced Europe's population by nearly 1/3. It is estimated that more than 25 million people were affected, a number so vast that even today it is hard to comprehend. The illness spread like fire on dry straw. Ships arrived full of rats infested with fleas carrying the bacterium Yersinia pestis. Within days, what began as a fever or headache turned into grotesque swellings on the skin, called buboes, accompanied by vomiting, bleeding, and delirium. For those who contracted the plague, their struggle was often short-lived, lasting only a few days. The population, desperate and without answers, believed it was a divine punishment. Churches filled with worshippers begging for mercy, while priests, unable to explain the phenomenon, reinforced the idea that it was humanity being judged for its sins. Fear grew so strong that families abandoned their infected relatives, trying to escape the unseen threat. And in the middle of this chaos, a mysterious figure appeared, dressed in black and wearing a mask that seemed straight out of a nightmare. A plague doctor. For many, he was the last hope of survival, but also a dark omen that the worst was yet to come. At the height of the Black Plague, medieval medicine was still in its infancy. No one truly understood how the illness spread. For many doctors of the time, the danger came from the so-called miasma, polluted, poisoned air that supposedly carried the world's ills. It was as if the very atmosphere had turned toxic, capable of invading the lungs and condemning anyone. It was in this scenario that one of history's most haunting figures emerged, the plague doctor, with an outfit that looked like it came from a macabre ritual. The black clothing covered the entire body, made of heavy fabric or leather, like an improvised armor against the invisible. But what truly caught attention was the mask with a long bird-like beak. The design was not random. Doctors believed this shape created a natural filter. Air would pass through the beak, where aromatic herbs, spices, or even sponges soaked in vinegar were placed. They imagined this would purify what they breathed and protect them from the invisible threat. Although today we know it was far from effective, at the time it seemed like a brilliant idea, a mix of primitive science and superstition. For the population, seeing that masked figure walking through the streets was shocking. Some felt hope, others felt terror. As if his presence, it became a symbol of collective fear, etched forever in humanity's memory. If the outside of the mask was already striking, the inside of the beak held even stranger secrets. Plague doctors believed the air was filled with invisible toxins, so they placed herbs, dried flowers, spices, and even strong substances inside the beak to purify each breath. Among the most common ingredients were rosemary, believed to repel bad air, camphor, known for its intense aroma, and even pieces of juniper. Some used vinegar-soaked sponges, thinking the acidity would neutralize harmful vapors. Others filled the beak with lavender, cloves, mint, and even exotic substances, depending on local wealth and access. In practice, none of this worked against the plague, since it was spread mainly by fleas on infected rats. But the intense scents gave something else: psychological comfort, both for doctors and patients. In the unbearable stench of medieval streets, filled with waste and sickness, breathing through a mask of herbs must have felt almost like relief. Some historians even call this mask a distant ancestor of modern protective masks, an early desperate attempt to create a barrier against the unseen. The plague doctor was both a sign of hope and of terror. He walked through the streets in long robes, gloves, boots, and the beaked mask, always carrying a wooden stick. This stick was not just an accessory. It was used to keep distance, push away desperate people, and even examine patients without direct contact. But did they really help? The answer is complicated. Most doctors lacked the knowledge to offer effective treatment. Some used bloodletting, others prescribed strange diets or herbal mixtures. Many simply recorded cases, writing down symptoms to try to understand the phenomenon. And most of them weren't hired by patients, but by cities. Their job included not only caring for the population, but also creating reports and statistics. In many cases, their role was more bureaucratic than medical. For ordinary people, seeing a plague doctor arrive in their village could mean two things. Perhaps there was still hope, or that the situation was already out of control. Ironically, even dressed to save, they became omens of misfortune. Perhaps its greatest legacy is the reflection on how we handle health crises even today. Back then, the mask was a desperate attempt at protection in chaos. Today, masks are backed by science, but fear of the unseen remains the same. The plague mask lives on in our collective memory. Born as a tool to protect, it became a universal symbol of human fragility before the unknown. The plague mask was not just a strange relic of the past, it was humanity's struggle against the invisible, a mix of fear, faith, and early science in desperate times. Today, when we look at that long-beaked figure, we don't just see medieval doctors. We see a reminder of how fragile we are, and how we try at any cost to build barriers against what we cannot explain. For some, the mask is only a relic. For others, it is a warning. Invisible enemies will always exist. The difference lies in how we face them. And now I ask you, do you think humanity will still create new symbols to face future global crises, just as the plague mask became an icon of the past? Leave your opinion in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to AI History, and hit the notification bell to keep following our dark stories from the past. Because history, even in its darkest chapters, always has something to teach us.